Hello students, we are going to discuss about the exam coverage of science exam for term 3 2024-25 academic year. So students, there will be 15 multiple choice questions in that, and each of the multiple choice questions will have 4 marks, and then there will be 4 free response questions. Each free response questions will be marked between 8 marks and 12 marks depending on the length of the question. So there are basically 2 types of questions: multiple choice and free response, and the overall marks would be for 100 marks, and the exam duration is 150 minutes, and the exam will be on both. Part of the exam will be on Swift assess and part of it will be on paper. Then calculators are allowed, although in term 3 we don't have many things for which we have to use calculator, but keep in mind, if there is any need, if there is a question which requires calculation, you can use the calculator. Okay, so first of all, let's see. The students will explore how the continents have moved over time on Earth's surface. That's the first the question they have given. So they will analyze and interpret the data and identify patterns and distribution of fossil records, continent shapes, land masses, glacial features, and climate to provide evidence of past plate motions. So basically this is about continental drift and the evidence of continental drift, which we have discussed ample number of times during our classroom. So basically you have to understand the 4 different evidences. So first you have the matching coastlines, then you have the similar kind of rocks found on the either side of the continents, and then you have the similar kind of fossils of ancient land reptiles found on either side of the continents. Then you have the 4th evidence is about the presence of coal in a place as cold as Antarctica, where there is no forest or swamps or anything, and in the present day. And the 5th one, there is one more evidence, which is we found glacial scratches in places, especially south of India, south of Africa, south of South America, where it's not a cold weather place, but you can find scratches of glacier on the rocks and mountains in those places. So these are the evidence. So this is the first learning outcome, which contains about the evidence. It seems that this kind of thing, this evidence is actually asked over multiple number of times. Second learning outcome is also the same. Students will explore the continent, how the continent moved over time. So basically it's about the continental drift and the evidence which say that how it might be true. Then the third one is students will explore the development of theory of plate tectonics. They will analyze and interpret data and patterns based on the locations of sea floor structure and the age of the rocks. So remember, in the class we had discussed about 2 kinds of map. One with the water depth in the oceans, Pacific and Atlantic and all the oceans, you have the water depth. So there could be an application question where they might give you a map and ask you to rank the depth of specific points which are marked on the map. So it could be like, so as we discussed in the class, the deeper blues are all very deep places in the map, and the lighter blues are closer to the sea surface. That means it's less deep. So keep that in mind. And also the rock patterns, so rock ages patterns. So as you know, on the map you will see red and green, or it could be other color shades, but they will give the color coding in the map. So you have to first look at the color coding, what the color coding looks like in both the maps, whether it's the water depth or the rock ages, and you have to look at the color coding which they have given, and based on the color coding they have given, you have to figure out which region has more aged rocks and which region has younger aged rocks. So based on that you have to mark. So probably they might give you points marked on the map and ask you which to rank the age of the rocks based on the color code which is provided in the map. Okay, so the fourth learning outcome is something similar. Students will explore the development of theory of plate tectonics. They will analyze and interpret and identify patterns based on locations and of sea floor structures and age of rocks provided. Okay, good. So that's the first four options, first four learning outcomes. Now let's go to the fifth one. Students will explore how the movement of plates form mountain ranges and volcanoes and cause earthquakes. They will construct explanation, develop and use models and identify patterns to understand how plates move and interact. So basically there are three kinds of plate boundaries. So this is about the plate boundaries, how they move. So the plate boundaries, when they move towards each other, it's convergent boundary. When they move away from each other, it's divergent. And when they move by sideways, by sliding it past each other, there is a transform boundary. So based on these three types, so the fold mountains are usually made on the convergent boundaries, and you know that the divergent boundaries usually give rise to fault block mountains. So you should know what are the different types of mountains and which kind of boundaries they give rise to. Which kind of mountains each of the boundaries give rise to. Okay, so you should know that. So that's what this question could be about. And for this, they might even give you a picture showing different kinds of plate boundaries, and try to speculate, try to guess what kind of mountain that there might be in that particular point, where they might have marked a point asking whether it could be a fold mountain or a fold block mountain, etc. Okay, so let's look at the sixth learning outcome. Student will explore how the movement of plates forms mountain ranges and volcanoes. Yeah, same thing. So earthquakes, that's one thing. About earthquakes I didn't explain. You see, the plate boundaries, where there are transform boundaries, that's where the earthquakes usually happen, right? Transform boundaries usually give rise to earthquakes. And what about volcanoes? Volcanoes are places where you usually find them in convergent boundaries, and you can also find volcanoes in hotspots. So they are not close to the plates, so they are not close to the plate boundaries. Hotspot volcanoes are found far away from the boundary, somewhere inside the tectonic plate, so where the crust is weak and the mantle is able to pump out some magma or lava out of that crack. So that's about the earthquake. Okay, so let's look at the seventh learning outcome. Students will explore the process of weathering, erosion and deposition which shape Earth's surface. They will construct explanations based on evidence and how these geoscience processes have changed Earth's surface at varying time and spatial scales. So you see, this is the seventh and eighth, something along the similar lines. So seventh and eighth learning outcomes are similar. So what does it say? Basically, we know what is weathering, erosion and deposition. Weathering is breaking down of rocks. Erosion is moving the rocks and rock pieces from one place to another by the wind and ice, glacier or water. And then deposition is putting the sediments by these agents of erosion. They put it somewhere, so that's called deposition. So probably there could be places where you have to construct an explanation. So for example, they might ask you where the heavy sediments, where in a picture they might ask you where they might have deposited, in a region. So you know that the heavy sediments are the sediments which are deposited first, because when the water or something loses energy, they deposit there. And then as you move further, when the water gets slower and slower, or the wind gets slower and slower, you will find the sediments which are lighter, they get deposited at the end. So that's a kind of question that can be asked. Okay, let's go to 9 and 10. Students will explore the process of melting, crystallization, weathering, deformation and sedimentation, which act together to form minerals and rocks through cycling of Earth's materials. They will develop and use models to describe stability and change of these geoscience processes. So what entails this question? Let's try to unpack it. Basically, this is the rock cycle, right? Rock cycle involves melting of rock, crystallization of rock, then weathering of rock, then sedimentation, and things like wherein the rock undergoes transformation, chemical change. So this is the rock cycle. So one possible question would be, they might give you a flow chart or a diagram wherein you have to fill in the gaps. So they will give the picture of rock cycle, or maybe the process of lithification, which is a process in which sedimentary rocks are formed. So you have to basically try to understand and fill in from the given keywords which they have given. You have to fill in the diagram of the rock cycle. That is a possible question which had been asked a couple of years ago. So that's an important question. Then let's have a look at one more question which is possible from here, which is about the types of igneous rocks. So they could give a picture of a volcano and try to ask, they might give you arrows and try to ask where would you generally find the intrusive igneous rocks, and where would you generally find the extrusive intrusive rocks. So extrusive, as you know, it's made from lava, which will always be outside on the Earth's crust, and the intrusive rocks would generally be found inside the Earth's crust, because they are made from magma. So that's what this question could be about. Now let's look at the 11th learning outcome. Students will construct explanations about geological forces that cause earthquakes, including the building up of stress along the tectonic plates. They will discover the earthquakes, measure how earthquakes is measured, and recognize the factors that affect the severity or damage caused by the earthquake. Students will analyze and interpret data related to earthquake risks and use maps to understand the pattern scientists use to predict the likelihood of future events. And students will also learn about earthquake safety measures, including technologies to mitigate the impacts of earthquakes. So basically it is all about earthquakes. So what would this question, what sort of question can we expect from this? Especially they have given a three-dimensional thinking question. So one of the things, it could involve a picture, it could involve some blanks or column which you have to fill in, and it could be there could be a higher order thinking. So you have to apply your thinking, you have to apply what you know. So it would be about the modified Mercalli scale, wherein they will give you a case and ask you to rank the particular case of earthquake as 1 to 10 in the modified Mercalli scale. The modified Mercalli scale is based on the damage which is caused by the earthquake. Another possibility is earthquake measured in Richter. So they could ask you how many times. They could give you a few scenarios and ask you to compare the strength of the earthquake in terms of the energy released, which would be about the moment magnitude scale, or how much shaking has happened, that how much movement has happened. In that case, it would be about the Richter scale. So you have to apply the scale, and you have to maybe compare how many times powerful the earthquake is in one situation compared to another situation. So that's one possible question. So this is a higher order thinking. So this could be a good question. It could have any such kind of possibilities of coming. Okay, let's now move on to 12. 12 is the same learning outcome, similar learning outcome. One more thing within the 11 and 12 is basically how can we protect or mitigate ourselves from the impact of earthquake. So it would involve making earthquake resistant buildings. The governments could pass laws to restrict restrict engineers and contractors from building which are not earthquake proof. So those are the kind of things. So they can give you a case study or case scenario. You have to read that carefully and try to answer it. Okay, and let's have a look at 13. Students will discover the scientists can reliably predict some natural hazards such as volcanic eruptions, and by analyzing, monitoring geological forces in the region and recognizing pattern using maps that show the history of natural hazards in the region, students will be able to analyze, interpret data related to volcano risks, and will learn about technology scientists use to mitigate the impacts of a volcanic impact. So basically you're going to read the case, and you're going to see what are the things that could lead to volcanic eruption soon. So you know the basic different signs of volcanic eruptions. There could be slight tremors or earthquakes before the volcanic eruption. There could be production of gases. There could be bulging of that volcanic mountain. The changes on the surface because of the bulging of the Earth's crust. So these are all signs of a volcanic eruption. So you should be able to understand that. So another thing is, you know that volcanoes are found around the volcanic arcs. They are found along the volcano belts, or they are also found along hotspots. So that could be a possibility. So they could actually ask you about hotspots, like where is the hotspot, or you know that the hotspots can change. They change the position, right? Because the Earth's crust is moving, the tectonic plate is moving. So because it moves, the position of the volcano changes. So the hotspot on the mantle remains the same, but the tectonic plates shifts. So because of that, the place from which the volcano is formed is different. So one famous example which we can think of is the Hawaii Islands, Hawaii volcano. It's something similar along that line. So you could study such things like Hawaii volcano, Kilauea volcano. So different volcanoes. So they can give you a case study, and you could try to answer according to what they have asked. So always try to read the question properly, and according to the question you have to give the answer. Okay. So students, so let's look at 15. The next question. Students will construct explanations about the factors that cause severe weather, such as hurricane, tornadoes, droughts, and floods. They will analyze and interpret data to determine the risk of severe weather in different regions, and use maps to understand the patterns scientists use to predict the likelihood of future events. So students will also learn about safety measures to take in the event of severe weather. So we have a few different severe weathers: hurricanes, tornadoes, and droughts and floods. So you have to analyze and interpret the data. So they will give you a situation, a scenario. You have to read it, and you have to use the map to understand the patterns and try to predict the likelihood of the event. Okay, so that's the thing. Then let's look at the next one. Students will explore how the continents have moved over time on Earth's surface. They will analyze and interpret data, identify patterns. It's a similar thing which we had discussed. So, but it's a more involved question. May have more. Then it also involves students will explore the development of plate tectonics and analyze and interpret data and patterns based on locations of seafloor structure and ages of rocks. So this is something which we have already discussed. So it would be a repeat of the similar topic, but the kind of question they can ask would be different. Then let's look at 17. Students will construct explanation about geological forces that cause earthquakes, build up stress along tectonic boundaries. So here they can give you a picture and ask you along which position, which place in the map is a transform boundary or a convergent boundary or a divergent boundary. So that could be the kind of question that can come here. So another thing is how the scientists use the different data to figure out whether a place is going to be subject to severe weather. Okay, then another one, 18. Students will explore the movement of plates from mountains. Again, we discussed this. The different kind of mountains formed from different kind of boundaries. And 19, students will explore the process of melting crystallization. This is again about the different ways of rock formation, how the metamorphic rocks are formed through chemical change of sedimentary and igneous rocks, and another formation about how the sedimentary rocks are formed, or the rock cycle.